Both sweatshirts, the light gray one and the dark gray one, they were both packaged. The outer container was a sealed brown paper bag, and then inside that sealed brown paper bag was a red, what I call a biohazard bag. It's a red plastic bag that's usually used for putting biohazardous material in. And that biohazard bag was not sealed with tape necessarily, but it was knotted, sealed with a knot. And then inside that red bag was the sweatshirt, both sweatshirts, individually in separate packages, not in the same package.
It's common for you to receive evidence in brown paper bags, correct?
Yes, brown paper bags is ideal for packaging items because the paper bag lets the item breathe, so if there's any moisture in there, it'll dry out.
Unfortunately, in this situation, while the exterior packaging was brown paper, the interior packaging was plastic.
Yes, it was a red biohazard plastic bag.
And even though you didn't see it when Mr. Guzman opened it, you're saying that he tied it back up before he gave it to you?
Yes.
And then when you opened it to begin your inspection, you detected quite an odor of mold or ammonia, is that
Yes.
correct? It struck you that it smelled bad.
On one of the sweatshirts, the dark gray hooded sweatshirt. The light gray sweatshirt did not have the same odor.
And that meant to you that it maybe wasn't as wet?
Correct.
I take it your assumption, your professional assumption was this smell is associated with evidence that has been packaged wet and then stored for a period of time.
Correct. The items, both sweatshirts were still wet when I opened the package. The light gray non-hooded sweatshirt was damp, a little damp. It wasn't really that wet. The dark gray hooded sweatshirt was more damp. It was wet, and it had a very pungent odor. Ammonia, mold, I'm not exactly sure what the odor was. It was something along those lines. I noted in my notes.
Did you ever find your gym bag in the trunk after a couple of weeks? That kind of odor? You know what I'm talking about? Kind of a strong ammonia, mold, this dirty laundry that's been sitting around a while?
I've had sports equipment that have smelled like that before, yes.
What should have been done, if I hear what you're saying, is that the clothing should have been air dried before it was packaged, or at least packaged in paper bags.
That's correct. Ideally, yes, you'd like to air dry anything you collect, especially items of clothing that are wet. You'd like to air dry them before you package them. And on top of that, we encourage our agencies not to put things into plastic bags because those don't allow the evidence to breathe, and that'll trap in any kind of moisture.
And that would be a red flag to you as an analyst that there's something going on with this evidence that places the biological evidence at a risk of degradation.
Correct.
The things that you were talking about before, how the strands break up and such?
Yes, that's correct.
And I take it would be impossible for you to be able to quantify precisely how much degradation there was.
And that's correct. I mean, you can tell by the testing you do, maybe you expect more results than you got, and you can say, oh, there was probably some degradation. However, I mean, that's a hypothetical situation. If the evidence were allowed to dry down and package properly, would I have gotten more results? Potentially, but I don't know for sure, and that's a hypothetical.
That's an unknown factor in this case.
Correct.
You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.